The Yigal Allon Center at Kibbutz Ginosar is one of the must-stops in Israel. As you approach the center from outside, there's all sorts of artwork and so much to see outside. The center is actually dedicated to the memory of Yigal Allon, one of the founders of Israel, who actually grew up here. This was his home. But you can see the artwork outside. There's a whole museum here dedicated to his memory and to the history of Israel. Some of the things that you can see in here are incredible, including a stone from Migdal, as well as an ancient boat that may very well date to Jesus. As you walk up, be sure to take some time, check out the sculptures, the artwork, the scenery. Everything here has meaning, and it's really, the artists in our group absolutely loved coming up here. But as you get ready to go inside, there's two main things at the Yigal Allon Center. One is what's called the Jesus boat. This is actually a boat that was discovered back in 1986 when the waters of the Galilee were really low. Two brothers were walking in the water and discovered the remains of an ancient boat on the northwest shore of the sea. They actually went through a huge process to preserve the boat. Radiocarbon dating shows that it dates back to between 100 BC and 100 AD, which means this boat was on the water of the Sea of Galilee at the time of Jesus. They covered it with foam to preserve it. They pulled it out of the water and managed to do a whole process of preservation and restoration. And they show that on the wall. The way that they managed to preserve the boat and move it, because it was an amazing process. And after you watch the movie that talks about that, then you get to see the actual boat. And it's amazing that this boat here, it's 2,000 years old. It dates to the time of Jesus. Did he sit in this when he was preaching on the water? Was it there when he was preaching on the water and other people were sitting on it? We don't know, but it's entirely possible that this boat saw Jesus. It's a really neat process, but then you turn around and you can see this boat that may very well have seen Jesus himself. This is a fishing boat. This is the type of boat he would have been in, that he and the other disciples would have used on the sea. It would have had a deck, which you can't see anymore. You can kind of see the edge line of the back rib there. That's about where the deck level would have been, and then the sides of the boat would have come up further. This would have been about the size that they would have all sailed on across the water. This is the size of the boat that Jesus would have fallen asleep on in the storm, or preached on when he was at the sea. To think that this boat may have actually been on the water and heard Jesus preach. Maybe even one of the disciples used it. We don't know, but this is from that time. And you get to see a piece of Jesus' history there. It is right on the sea. Really, Galilee is a big lake. But you can look out the windows and see the water. But what's really neat is you go upstairs, there's another whole huge museum here with archaeological artifacts, pieces from the history of Israel, some replicas, but also some authentic things. Just a neat museum, but this is the highlight right here. This is actually a stone that was discovered in Migdal, where Mary Magdalene was from, that comes from the synagogue. This stone dates to the Second Temple period, again the time of Jesus. This is the stone that they used to unroll the Torah for the readings. So when they did their scripture readings in synagogue, this is where they would have opened up the scrolls to read it. You can see the carvings on it of the menorah and the different temple artifacts, so it's done by somebody who probably saw the actual temple. It's very possible that when Jesus was visiting the synagogues, that he visited the synagogue, he almost surely visited it, and he may have very well read the Torah from this stone. Quite a neat deal. This is the authentic stone. They do have a replica of it on display at Migdal, but this is the real thing here, and you can walk right up close to it and see it. It's such an amazing sight. And again, two pieces of history that came in contact with Jesus. They also have a model of a synagogue to give you an idea of what it would have been like. The benches on the sides where they would have sat, the mosaic on the floor, to give you a very nice idea of what it may have been like to sit in a synagogue during that time of the Second Temple. The Second Temple, of course, ending at AD 70 when the Romans came in and leveled it. But if you want to know what Jewish synagogues were like at the time that Jesus walked the earth, this would have been it. This one shows a mosaic of the menorah from the temple itself. There would have been an ark that they would have kept the scriptures in. And of course, there are more artifacts here as well. The museum here is amazing and has some definite things you want to check out. So be sure to check out the Yigal Allon Center at Kibbutz Ginosor. It's definitely a stop you want to make when you are in Israel. A must stop. Be sure to check it out. And there's a whole lot more here as well. Don't miss it while you're here.